In my previous video, I hinted towards some of the future upgrades coming to the Mavic Air 2 via the firmware upgrade. And we got something unexpected. Mavic Air 2 Zoom, anyone? Let's check out the details. Hey guys, Felix here with Quadcopter Guide, and on this channel I help you get the most out of your drones and other filmmaking gear. Today we're talking Mavic Air 2 once again. In my previous video you guys got a sneak peek at some of the features to expect with the coming firmware update. Well, that day has come. Version 0.0340 has finally hit, and many of you guys commented in my previous video in the comments that you guys are downloading that now, so that's fantastic. I love reading those comments from you guys. Today we're going to take a look at all the features we got with the new update, and as I mentioned in the intro, we can now call this thing the Mavic Air 2 Zoom. But of course, it's not an optical zoom because that would require hardware, but it's nice that DJI gave us another free feature which we weren't expecting, and that is digital zoom. So if you take a look at the change notes, which I can link down below for you guys, we've got the safety flight mode, which I covered in detail in the previous video, and here's what is new. We've got 4K zoom mode. It's essentially a 2x digital zoom, which is available in 4K 30, 25, and 24p or FPS. And also in 2.7K, we've got 2x digital zoom all the way from 60p down to 24p. And then in 1080p, also from 60 to 24p or FPS throughout the whole range, we've got a 4x digital zoom. So I'm going to take a look at those menu options and kind of compare them for you guys, and we'll take a look at how good this digital zoom feature is, so stay tuned for that. Also, we've got some 4K resolution in hyperlapse, and they optimize the FPV mode for the gimbal, and also some optimizations for shooting performance when flying forward in sport mode. They've adjusted the flight attitude to avoid propellers unexpectedly showing in the camera view. Unfortunately, that portion I will not be able to test. More to that later. But if you guys do check that out, let me know down below what you think of that. What I want to know is, does the drone angle down less with this new optimization? So does your sport mode maximum speed while recording, does it get diminished with this update? That's what I want to know. If you checked that out or tested that, please do let me know down below. Very curious about that. All right, so they also optimized hyperlapse. You can now pause shooting during hyperlapse, and they increased the waypoints to 45. Also added a support for a task library so you can save waypoint missions, I assume. And did some active track optimizations when tracking vehicles at low altitude. All right, enough of that. Let's jump into the drone and check out the zoom options, because that's what I'm very curious about. All right, so as I mentioned previously, if you haven't seen my previous video, feel free to check that out. It's up here in the corner. I go into detail on the new battery icon, as well as this icon here on the left for the safety assistance mode with the sideways mode on or off. So now, of course, why everybody's here, the zoom features. So if you go to video mode, you now see that you've got a 4K wide and a 4K zoom. Now look at the 4K wide, you've got frame rate options from 24p all the way to 60p. And if you go to 4K zoom, you can tell that it already crops in a little bit just on the standard mode, and you've got the, like I mentioned before, the 24p to 30p settings. Now, if you go out of the menu, you see on the right, you've got a 1x kind of logo or icon. And if you tap that, you can go to 2x digital zoom. I'll try to get you guys some footage that is a little bit more scenic than this patio here. So if I have some of that, I'll put that in right now. If we go back, you can see that there's also 2.7K. There's no separate wide or zoom in this case. Here you can just choose whichever frame rate you want, because as I mentioned earlier, on 2.7K, every frame rate available is eligible for the zoom. So if I'm at 25p, when you switch from 4K to 2.7K, it's automatically in a 1.3x zoom, but you can tap it once again for 2x, or tap it again for the kind of wide, normal 1x zoom. So then once you go from there, you can go back to 2x or back to 1x. If for whatever reason you want to get back to the 1.3, you just switch to 4K zoom and back to 2.7K, and you're back at this 1.3x zoom. All right, oh, look at that. Ah, it's like a virtual zoom scroll wheel. All right, so how do we get that to work? You tap and hold, and you start swiping. You tap the number and you start swiping, let go, and then you kind of tap and hold up and down, and you get a kind of a more fine adjustment for the zoom. and each time it goes up in a 0.1 increment, the phone kind of does a tap vibration to let you know that it hit one of these settings. So that's pretty cool. Very cool. I like that implementation. Now it's 2.7K. Now let's go to 1080p. Here, once again, for every option, let's do 50p just for the fun of it. You've got 1x zoom, 2x zoom, 3x zoom, and 4x zoom. So that's pretty cool. Of course, you want good lighting conditions, and I've got my too dark ND filter on there, and we're in the shade, so it's kind of dark here. Let me artificially make it brighter. Of course, your quality is going to be a little bit better because you're not going to be at ISO 1600, but this is just an example. So let's get that scroll wheel to kind of show up. And here you got the more precise adjustments for the zoom, all the way to 4x. That's pretty cool. I can't wait to try that out on something more scenic for you guys. And it also gives it a kind of a smooth zoom. So I go up and down, and I let go at 1, and it does kind of an automatic zoom as you would with an optical zoom. So they kind of gave it a little bit of smoothing, so that's pretty cool. So we've got 4K wide, 4K zoom, 2.7K, and 1080p. Let's see if we got that for HDR as well. For HDR, we've got 4K wide with no zoom option and 2.7K. I'm guessing we're not going to get zoom on this just because it uses the Bayer filter, and they need all the pixels for that. Yeah, so that's why you don't get the zoom options in HDR. That's kind of expected. Slow motion, we also don't have zoom because it probably needs the whole sensor area for that, so that makes sense. So that's pretty cool. So once again, new in this 0.340 update is the zoom on the camera. The new battery icon we got with the recent FlyApp update 116, and for many of you, the new safety flight assistance obstacle avoidance actions on the menu item here, that is new for you guys since you didn't get the 0.330 update, which I got recently. Once again, you got the options for bypass, brake, or off. And for bypass, you have the option to disable sideways flight. So if you're flying somewhere that's kind of sketchy, I highly encourage you to turn on this disable sideways flight. With that, the drone will not be able to get pushed sideways manually since there is no side obstacle avoidance on the Mavic Air 2. Now with this new battery icon, if you wanted to see what the battery details were in more detail, you just tap the 3 buttons, go to safety, and then scroll down to battery info. And here you can see the individual cells in the graphical kind of display. You can see the individual voltage of each cell, total battery voltage, battery temperature. As you can see, pretty warm here, and the drone is pretty much all in the shade, and how many times you've charged it, etc., etc. So if you want to see that, you can go and see that in detail. You don't see that anymore by tapping on the battery. Hey, let me know down in the comments below, what do you plan on using this new zoom feature for on your Mavic Air 2? Do you film a lot of subjects that you just want to get a little bit closer to the action to? Perhaps you're filming boats on a lake or motocross riders on a motocross track. Let me know down below what you plan on using the zoom feature for, and let's get into a good conversation down there. Alright, if you guys learned something new or you enjoy this video, then please do give it a like. It really does help out the channel, and of course for more, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, check out some of these other videos. This one's pretty good, but you should check out this one. Alright guys, can't wait to see you in the next one. Let's have a good chat down below. See ya.